And welcome to Capital Talk, a program we hope will have an impact on the future of Kenya. Now more than ever, I'm Jeff Kenyatta. Now midweek on the bench, and the theme continues of deja vu. Looks like we've been here before, and we're wondering whether the more things change, whether they still remain the same. 10 years ago was a whole revolution, a whole feeling of euphoria that things were going to change. Have they changed? Well, on the bench today, folks, is the man tasked, literally tasked, with implementing the new constitution which we promulgated in August 2010. It's a tough task. He's been in office now literally 12 months and change. And I tell you, a lot of issues, a lot of deadlines, a lot of timetables. Yes, and a few spats here and there because he and the Attorney General, sometimes I guess they don't see eye to eye or they just have to debate things out. But that's democracy for you. He tells me that there are 3 huge laws that have to be implemented by the end of February, namely land, devolved government, and public finance. It's going to be huge, it's going to be tough, it's going to be challenging, but he remains optimistic that things are on course. Sit back, folks. He's the chairman of the CIC, the Constitution Implementation Committee, Charles Nyachae. Chairman?
Yes, Jeff.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Thank you very much. Same to you.
You know, I was watching you and the Attorney General not too long ago, and I was wondering, my goodness, I guess in a way Kenya has changed in that when, you could stand up to him and he can stand back to you. That's democracy in a way, isn't it?
Absolutely. That is democracy, Jeff. That is also the openness, the transparency, and the accountability that the Constitution expects of us, and we, the people of Kenya, have said that's the way that we want to conduct our affairs.
Yeah.
So, like I kept saying, one, it was not a private affair in the sense of a private dispute that required a private solution, and 2, I kept saying, let us not demonize public discourse. After all, discourse must mean that at some point we are, or from time to time, we're going to have disagreements. As long as we stick to the issues, and as long as we remain civil in the manner in which we conduct the discourse, yeah. I see absolutely nothing wrong. In any case, from my perspective, I have, or the Commission has, a constitutional obligation to bring these matters out into the public. So it's not a matter of choice.
Yeah, that picture of you, the Attorney General, and the President, yeah. And of course all the captions, you could pick whatever caption you want, but was he basically telling you guys, hey, cool off, cool your heels?
Okay, first of all, the picture came about as a result, basically, it was after the swearing in of the Court of Appeal judges, and the President was hosting those of us who had attended to a glass of juice, and like everybody else, I took the opportunity to to say hello to the President. Prior to that, we had a brief chat with the Attorney General, and the President didn't really say very much, other than to say, you people know the job that you're supposed to do. You know what Kenyans expect from you, so go ahead and do the job. I mean, and he's a president and he's a mzee, so when he says that, each of us understands what he means, in the sense that, I think the President respects the Constitution. He respects the role and the mandate of each one of us, and like the number 1 citizen that he is, he's saying, I not only as president, but I as a citizen of this country, expect you people to carry out your job in the manner that the Constitution has given you a mandate. That's how I understood.
Yeah. So the feud is over, the spat, whatever you want to call it?
Feud is not a good word, Jeff. Neither is spat, actually, come to think of it. That particular difference of opinion is over in the sense that what the difference was about, in essence, was about 2 things. One, in the legislative development part of our mandate, The Constitution squarely puts CIC and the Attorney General in bed together, so to speak. So it's not possible on the legislative part of our mandate, it's not possible for us to carry that out without working in harmony with the Attorney General. Similarly, it's not possible for the Attorney General to discharge that part of his work without working harmoniously with CIC. So in those 3 months of last year, if you will recall, there were a few hiccups, there were a few disagreements, but in the end, under the auspices of the CIOC, at a meeting in April at County Hall, the issues were finally resolved, and the process was finally agreed upon. A fairly detailed process. So on that aspect, what the disagreement was that having gone to the extent of agreeing on this process, the new Attorney General seemed to have a rethink about it. Now, for us, a rethink would not only take us backwards in terms of what had already been agreed, but we would go back to the original problem, which was that this process, the way it has been agreed, is what is in compliance with the Constitution. So any other way of doing it would put us in a situation of violation. The second area in which we had the variance of opinion with the Attorney General related to the administrative procedures part of our mandate. So one of the things we had to do early last year is to work with the executive to agree on how the administrative procedures part of the mandate was going to be carried out. And we did this. We sat together with the executive, including a meeting with the permanent secretaries, and we developed a circular, which circular was actually sent out to all government ministries, departments, and government agencies that are required to implement under the hand of Ambassador Mudaura as head of the public service. Yeah. Now, Naivasha, where we were last week, essentially we revisited that, and what was agreed was that, yes, these issues had been sorted out last year. There is a process, so let us, all of us, work in accordance with that process. And if we do that, I think we'll be able to work smoothly. And it's my expectation that that particular difference of opinion has been put behind us. But most important of all, it was never personal between the AG and myself.
Okay, I'm glad we got that out of the way. Okay, something that's really irked a lot of people, yes, Mr. Chairman, is the change of election date. When the IEBC was put together and they said, because the Constitution, which you carry with you, I see you carry with you everywhere, it said the second week of August 2012 is when the election will be. Yeah. We were willing to push it to December because of various logistics, blah, blah, this, that, the other. But to push it to March 2013, that has gotten a lot of people in a tizzy. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are this, and I'll try not to sound too legalistic, but the fundamental principle, Jeff, is that Kenyans, in endorsing this constitution, set out a particular architecture insofar as our system of governance is concerned. One of the things that we have done in that governance architecture is to give the role of final arbiter in the question of interpretation of the Constitution, to give that role to the judiciary. If you remember back, for example, talking about elections, to what transpired in the immediate aftermath of the 2007 elections, one of the major challenges and one of the reasons that we as a country ended up with the difficulty that we did was because there was no acceptable arbiter in the event of a dispute. Now, that was an electoral dispute, but the principle remains the same. Here we're talking about any dispute relating to interpretation of the Constitution. Yeah. So this matter went to the judiciary. Now, from our perspective, what is more important, and which I think is what Kenyans should, for lack of a better word, celebrate, rather than focus too much on on the detail of the election date is the fact that our mechanism is working. What the Constitution envisages on how we resolve these issues is actually working, because the court has handed down a judgment which has informed all of us that in so far as their reading of the Constitution, including the transitional provisions, this first election, the transitional election, will be held at the latest in 2013. And it's perhaps I could take a minute to explain my understanding of how the court arrived at that decision. The court, first of all, decided quite correctly that they must look at both the substantive provisions of the Constitution and the transitional provisions. They then, their own reading of the transitional provisions led them to conclude that the first election under the Constitution, the transitional election, will be held after the National Assembly, which was in place on the effective date, has served its term to the end of its term. Yeah. The court interpreted term to mean the fifth anniversary of the day that the 10th Parliament was sworn in.
Which is January 15th,
which is January 14th, 2013. But they also said, reading the transitional provisions which incorporate the National Accord and Reconciliation Act of 2010, it's incorporated into the Constitution, they also read that to state that the term of Parliament can be brought to an end, yeah, if the principals dissolve, mutually dissolve the coalition government.
Which could be any time this year.
It could be tomorrow.
Right.
You see, this is the point that I think is being missed out. According to that judgment, if tomorrow the principals sign an agreement that dissolves the coalition government, what that means is that within a period of 60 days from tomorrow, yeah, within that 60-day period, IEBC must set a date for the election.
Right. But you have no problem with that proposed date, if you will?
No. We as CIC, and we've stated this even before the court gave its ruling, and we have said what matters is what the court tells us the Constitution means. And I would tell Kenyans, let's celebrate that our court system is able to deliver to us, rather than focus perhaps too much on whether Jeff wants an August date or Charles wants a December date or somebody else wants some.
So what you're saying basically is the judiciary is working.
The judiciary is working, and that for me is what we need to celebrate. The judiciary is working, and the is therefore to that extent is delivering to the people of Kenya what they wanted when they set up that particular system in the Constitution.
Would you tell those who completely oppose that idea that we're going to extend the life of this 10th Parliament for another few months? Elections may not be till March, could be extended if there's a runoff. We're talking April, May, June. I mean, that's the middle of 2013. Would you tell those who oppose that?
Well, two things. One, of course, the judicial system means that decision is subject to appeal and may or may not be reversed or altered by either the Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court. That's the right of the parties. It would also be the right of any Kenyan to seek a legal procedural mechanism to challenge within the courts to challenge that. So that's the first point. But the second point, and what to me is the more important point, a mechanism for resolving disputes which is acceptable to all of us is the price that we have to pay for an orderly way of doing things in terms of the constitutional structure, And the possible consequence of that is that the court of necessity cannot agree with everybody's interpretation. But what is important is that every Kenyan should be able to walk out of that court feeling, okay, that was not my view. I may not even agree with the view as has been expressed by the court, but because we must have an orderly way of dealing with these issues, I, as a Kenyan, accept the decision of the court.
Right. I want to talk more about that, Mr. Chairman, after the break. And also the 3 laws that have to be enacted before the end of February: land, devolved government, public finance. Those are tough ones, my friend. I don't know how you're going to be able to manage in 6 weeks. And also, 10 years ago, I know you were working with Mzee during this narc revolution. What was it like then as it is now? Have things changed? Have they remained the same? First, let's take a break. He's the chairman of the CIC, folks, Constitution Implementation Committee. I tell you, man knows his stuff. He's breaking it down. He says there is a court of arbitration, there is a last resort, and yes, justice, the judiciary rather, is working. And it's good to see that the things are falling in place. Midweek on the bench, folks, we're talking issues. We're talking 2012. We're talking when the elections will be, and we're also looking back to 10 years ago during the narc revolution. Don't even think of switching that remote control. The bench with the chairman is back in a moment.